Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Paulison and I decided to do my presentation on Horace Mann. So a little bit about his early life, some basic information. Horace Mann was born in 1796 in Boston, Massachusetts, and he was born into a very poor family. He then went on to study law at Brown University, and he was elected to a seat in the Massachusetts House of Representatives in 1827. After that, he was elected to the Massachusetts State Senate in 1836, where his main focus was on infrastructure development, building railroads, highways, and canals. In 1837, he became the secretary of the Massachusetts Board of Education, which was one of the first boards of education in the whole country. And later, he became the president of Antioch College in Ohio until his death in 1859. So this is Horace Mann's educational ideology. His main focus was to spread the gospel of education through social reform. He stressed the economic value of education, and he said that an educated workforce is more punctual and reliable than an uneducated workforce. He saw a common, free, universal, and public institution as the best way of increasing the American economy. He also said common schools will eliminate conflicts between socioeconomic classes, enhance civil engagement, and will help instill moral habits into our children. He also thought that common education will decrease the crime rate in America and therefore decreasing the prevalence of poverty in the United States. Horace Mann thought public schools should have a common curriculum taught by professionally trained teachers. He saw language as the main method of instruction, and he also thought in order to develop intellect, you needed to be able to communicate between people orally. He also thought children in our schools should be exposed to the readings and teachings of the Bible, but should not have a specific religion forced upon them. Horace Mann, this quote here says, "Education is an antecedent agency, for it must enlighten mankind in the choice of pursuits, it must guide them in the selection and use of the most appropriate means, it must impart that confidence and steadiness of purpose which results from comprehending the connections of a long train of events and seeing the end from the beginning, or all enterprises will terminate in ruin." So what he's saying there is education benefits the economy by promoting decision making, and it helps develop long-term decision making skills in our children. So this is his impact on the education. He's known as the father of the common school movement, and the education reform he led while he was the Secretary of Education in Massachusetts focused on educating the American workforce, and he saw an educated workforce would improve the American economy drastically. While Secretary of Education, he created a policy that gave free elementary education to all children, and he also created a teacher training program called Normal Schools. There was about 4 or 5 of them in the state of Massachusetts at the time. And also, Mann was credited with popularizing the connection between socioeconomic status and education. And this view says people with a higher education level are more likely to make more money and be in a higher social class. And that view is still used today. So these are some of my critiques on Mann's educational ideology. When researching Mann, I found that a lot of his motives for reforming education had a political agenda behind them, and he wanted to educate the population to increase the economy, therefore making him look good, increasing his political status. So I feel like his status as a politician motivated a lot of the education reform that he put in place. Also, he didn't think people with certain disabilities had any intellect or ability to learn. And as a future special education teacher, I believe that no matter what disability you have or whatever it may be, you always have the capacity to learn in your own, just might be in a different way, but you always have the capacity to learn. And now we're moving on to some outside critiques of Horace Mann's educational ideology. All right, so some people think Mann's educational approach marginalized the function of schools in training students. Also, Mann saw the world as a set of black and white problems that had easy solutions. He thought just sticking all different types of people into one school would automatically get along and coexist, and that always isn't the case. And finally, Mann wanted to try and control the mass population of America's youth. He thought that by sticking them again in the same school, that he was going to control all of the outcomes that came out of their education. And here are all my resources. And thank you all very much.